Hello and welcome back to the Stateside Soccer Show. I am not your host, Logan. Jordan has had a baby, everybody. Landon his way into the world. Yesterday, I got a text. I think it was like 3:30. Get a text from Jordan, and he and his wife have had their child. So congratulations, Jordan. You will be missed on the podcast. My hosting skills, at least for this show, I think they need some fine tuning. So I thought I'd jump on here live, go live and talk U.S. men's national team because Jordan got to talk about them. When was that? That would have been, I think, Sunday night. I want to say Saturday. No, it would have been after the game, Panama game. So that would have been, oh goodness, when was that? Was that Thursday? But yeah, Jordan jumped on live, talked a little bit about his reactions to Panama, and then last night the United States was eliminated from Copa America. So I thought that we would jump on here, talk some MLS action first, kind of get that out of the way. A couple things have happened as far as importance for that is concerned. We're in a bit of a weird spot right now just because we've got MLS currently going on, Copa that's going on, that a lot of MLS players are still playing in Copa America. Ours are not. We didn't have, I don't think that many MLS players, obviously, on the squad. But we will talk a little bit MLS first here, and then we're going to jump into U.S. men's national team news and just kind of dive in. This MLS stuff's going to be really quick just because I know there's a lot of people that are going to want to watch this and interact. So if you've got some comments below, I guess, as I'm kind of going through some MLS stuff first and getting that out of the way, what are some of your thoughts? What do you think about Gregg Berhalter? Do you think he's with U.S. men's national team going forward? I know Jordan and I are both on the Gregg out, I guess, steam train, I guess you could call it. Not a huge Gregg Berhalter fan. Didn't really like the way that he reacted to some of the stuff happening last night on the pitch, but we'll get into that. There's a lot to discuss. First, I did want to get into MLS news, just kind of go through the standings and then update you a little bit on a couple of the storylines that I'd kind of picked out from this weekend, but I wanted to leave a majority of the show for the U.S. men's national team stuff and talk Copa, but also talk about the future of this club. Well, I guess not club, but the future of this international team, because I think the U.S. men's national team's got a lot to figuring out to do. A lot of different things that they've got to do and learn from this experience that they've had at Copa. But just looking at the standings right now, Miami in first, 44 points. They did get a win over the weekend, kept pace with the rest of the league. And honestly, I mean, I think at this point we can all agree that Miami's pretty much the cream of the crop. I would say LAFC is chasing them. LAFC had a really good result over the weekend as well. So Miami keeping pace with the rest of the league and really doing things without Messi, without Suarez. And I think a lot of people in MLS thought that there was going to be a huge struggle when those two were not around, but that has not been the case. And Argentina and Uruguay are still playing, so they will still be missing some time. We thought pretty much the end of July and August will start to see some of these players back in the league and healthy and playing again. But again, I think as the season winds down and Miami still sits atop MLS standings, you probably won't see a whole lot of Lionel Messi or Luis Suarez, even Busquets. We'll see some time to rest because they'll be gearing up for the playoffs. But yeah, you know what? Let's first go through the results from the weekend, and then we'll get into the standings. So I think that makes a little bit more sense. So Atlanta beat Toronto 2-1, Montreal 4-2 over Philadelphia. So Philadelphia continue to struggle. I think it's pretty likely now that Philly and Orlando are fighting for their lives, at least the two teams that we follow here on Stateside quite a bit, just because Jordan and I are locals to the area and we follow the teams. But it does look like the Eastern Conference is really opening up for a lot of these teams that are sitting around that 9th and 10th spot. New England and Columbus, I think that was Jordan's game of the week pick. It did not go well. Columbus bashed in New England 5-1. So a huge result for Columbus. Columbus is now climbing and up the table. They've got a couple games in hand. They got 33 points, played 18 matches. They got 2 games in hand pretty much, and then 3 on Cincinnati, who I think Cincinnati could overtake Miami if they win their game in hand. So I'll kind of base it off that. Both Miami and Red Bull are ahead of Columbus, and they've got 21 matches played. Columbus has 33 points, Red Bull 35, and so that's a 3-game differential between the two. That I think Columbus, I think that the way that they're playing, they win those games, they get some of those points in hand, and honestly, the third spot is for the taking for them, and they'll be chasing down Cincinnati and Miami. I truly do believe that. Miami's struggling with some, obviously, or not Miami, Cincinnati struggling with some defensive issues, whereas Miami is still missing those players, but I think they haven't really missed a beat. So it'll be interesting. Could Columbus make it kind of a hell is real chase for the second seed? I think that's pretty possible. But right now, I just don't see anybody overthrowing what Miami's doing, especially because they're doing it without their stars. Back to the results of the weekend. We had DC United and Red Bull draw 2-2. We had a Cincinnati win in Dallas 1-0. Houston 1-0 over Charlotte at home. Sporting Kansas City 2-0 over Austin. Nashville lost to Miami 2-1. LAFC with a decisive victory over Colorado 3-0. Portland beats Minnesota 3-2. And I think that was my pick for game of the week because I felt like that was going to be a really good one with just the way that Portland has started to play. Minnesota starting to do the thing they do all the time, where they see light at the end of the tunnel, the season getting closer and closer to over halfway, and then towards the end, and all of a sudden their season comes crashing down in and around them. And now they're without their DP10, who we've talked about that for weeks now, and they're just not the same team. So I don't know what the boys do in Minnesota, but that'll be interesting to follow. Definitely a storyline that we'll be following for the rest of the year. Minnesota's already down to 7th place. So sniffing that playoff line a little too closely. I'm sure they do not want to be there. They've got LA Galaxy 3-0 over San Jose, Seattle 2-1 over Chicago, and Vancouver 4-3 over St. Louis. We did get some news out of St. Louis that Bradley Carnell would be let go from his position. So St. Louis is going to be without their head coach that had started their franchise with them. A big move after last year, competing and finishing in the top spot of the Western Conference. You look at the conference standings this year, St. Louis is all the way down to 12th. I think a little harsh. Would be interested to see just kind of how the ownership interacted with Bradley and what that was like. I don't there's been some injury issues that St. Louis has had to deal with. They're not a big market team. They don't spend a ton. So the fact that they were so quick on the trigger was very interesting to me. I know Jordan actually texted me some of his thoughts on this because I wanted some of his thoughts to kind of bring to the show as well. And he said that, he was not as big of a Bradley Carnell fan, which, I mean, I understand that. I think he comes from the same tree in which the Red Bull press, that Gangan press, where you really have to have a certain amount of players that are willing to kind of play into this system. And the more that we start to see that over here, that Red Bull press, that high energy, high pressing, especially with some of the older European guys that some of these clubs are bringing over, it's just not a system that really works here in the U.S. And in MLS. I get pressing, but this high octane, have to defend, have to get out and get in the face of players playing on the back, defenders trying to get the ball back in your third of the pitch, trying to make the keeper make a mistake. I understand that. I get it, but I don't think that this league is really ready for that. We've seen where Red Bull have struggled at the end of the year. I honestly think that has a lot to do with it. Red Bull's always been this high pressing team who's always put a lot of pressure on opposing teams. And I think that's been a huge issue for them towards the end of the season. Guys are worn, guys are hurt. By the time they get to the playoffs, they're just a shell of themselves. They played well defensively last year, Red Bull did. So you kind of hope this translated over to St. Louis. But again, St. Louis is a totally different club. I think you got to build this in a different way. Interested to see where the club goes from here. I don't think there's going to be a real exciting move. I'm interested to see if Bradley Carnell leaves and goes somewhere else. where does he end up? Does San Jose come calling? They seem to want to pick up people's leftovers, and not have success. So maybe that's where he's headed. I have no idea. But definitely a shocking move, to be honest with you. I was not ready for that. And I know a lot of MLS Twitter was not ready for that. But yeah, and then as far as some other MLS news, um, I think talking a little bit about LAFC. LAFC is expecting Olivier Giroud at any moment now. It is July. I think they said July is when he's going to start seeing the team and training with the team, playing with the team. Um, I think that's a massive move for this club. And I think if anybody's going to run over Miami, it would be or would have to be LAFC. I look at Cincinnati, I look at LA Galaxy, I look at RSL. Um, you look at a Columbus Crew team, which the Crew are a little different. The Crew, they've been there, but you look at this LAFC team that's got Denny Bouanga, that's going to add Olivier Giroud. That's got one of the best goalkeepers that we've seen in a long time in Hugo Lloris. This LAFC team is just so tough to beat. And, unlike Miami, they just don't give up goals. They've allowed 23 goals this season, and LAFC has scored 41. Whereas you look at Miami, and Miami's always really struggled to defend. They've allowed 30 goals. They do score 48, so that's an incredible number at this rate. But I think we have a clash of giants coming. I'm really excited about that. I'm interested to see where all that comes, what comes of that in the playoffs. Um, kind of what this means for the MLS going forward, because I think it puts us at a different level. A lot of these clubs are going to have to go out and spend. You've got really good managers that are looking and eyeballing this league, because I think they really want to get over here and compete. And MLS is getting there. I mean, I think a lot of the talent that's coming over, it's getting younger and younger. It's not quite considered a retirement league. It's kind of, these are the last couple of years of my career where I feel like I can really contribute to a league. And so um, we're going to compete as much as possible. Bring over KDB, bring them all over. Let's go. So yeah, in MLS running down the standings again. Miami in first, Cincinnati in second, 42 points, trailing by 2 to Miami. Red Bull have 35 points and are in third. Columbus at fourth with 33 points. NYCFC at 32 points, and they are in fifth. Charlotte is tied with them with 32 points as well. In sixth, Nashville 26 points in seventh. Toronto 24 points, and they do sit eighth. Atlanta had some big news. Thiago Almada is leaving. I forgot to pull that up. Let me pull that up real quick, because I forgot to put that in the show notes, because it was one of those things. Yes, set to be the most expensive outgoing transfer in MLS history. Let's see, where's he going? He's currently with Argentina in Copa, but $30 million headed out of Atlanta United. We knew this was coming. We felt like this was inevitable, and it finally does come. And I think Atlanta going forward is going to struggle. They fired Gonzalo Pineda. Giacomakis is gone. Giacomakis came out. I don't know if we talked about this at all, but he came out and said that MLS is kind of a joke of a league. They don't really care if they win or not. Which he went to Liga MX, so I don't really know how much to put behind that. They don't really like us down there. But Almada leaving. I mean, this is just, at this point, Garth Lagerwey just blows this up. I don't see where this gets any better. It's going to get a whole lot worse. So anybody in the comments, if you want to drop anything, we're getting ready to move over to U.S. men's national team. I know that's probably why a lot of you jumped in. I'm real excited. Not really, but it'll be a lot of fun, and we're going to talk a lot about it. So I'm going to try to limit MLS talk as much as possible. And then one more thing that I wanted to say on the Atlanta United front. They're sitting in a playoff spot, but I just think that spot's going to be given up, just because I just don't think they've got enough talent to really do anything. They're getting a lot of money in return for a lot of these players, right? So Almiron was there, and he was a nice flip for profit. Giacomakis, I thought Miles Robinson. It seems like Atlanta is really good at developing and getting talent, young talent. So I'm not worried about that on that front. I think Atlanta United is always going to surround their players with a lot of good talent. It's just a matter of do the pieces work together. which they often seem that they don't. In 10th place, just below the playoff line and 2 points behind Toronto and Atlanta, is Montreal with 22 points. Orlando has 21 points, so they are still in the playoff hunt. Philadelphia with 20 points. And again, are really struggling. I feel like, past from Orlando down, I really do feel like those teams are the teams that are really going to struggle to get into playoff positioning. I feel like Montreal is the better suited of the bunch. And the only reason I say that is because they seem to win games when they need to, whereas Atlanta and Philly just keep dropping games left and right. They can't win at home. DC United, same kind of story. New England built such a hole or dug such a hole for themselves to start the season. I'm not sure they're bought into Caleb Porter. Um, I think they went on a nice run, but again, a nice run can be followed up by not such a nice run, and they're back into the well because they just did not start very well. Only a point ahead of Chicago, which is not good. So if you're using that as a frame of reference, they also only have 18 games played. New England does, so they are about 2 to 3 games that they can gain some points from, and I think that that's pretty possible that they do that. But we'll see. But that's the Eastern Conference. Moving over to the West, LAFC in first with 40 points. LA Galaxy are tied with them in first place with 40 points. So El Trafico coming up is going to be very, very interesting. RSL, 37 points in chasing the other two. A Galaxy does have a game in hand over LAFC and RSL. Colorado, 31 points. Portland at 30 points. Houston at 30 points. Minnesota at 29 points. And that's 1 through 7. Again, Minnesota flirting with that play-in game. Vancouver in 8th with 28 points. Seattle with 28 points in 9th. And then 10th place is Austin with 27 points. This is starting to really play out like, if the teams continue in that 8, 9, and 10 range where they currently are, it's going to be an interesting decision day. But say Austin starts to struggle, or, Vancouver or Seattle or Minnesota continue to, not collect points and they start to drop, the West could be sewn up by the next month, because I'm not sure Dallas is coming anywhere close to that. I don't think St. Louis is going to get close to that. They've got a lot of injuries now. They've got a head coach to replace and a system to replace, because I'm not sure that system works. They're not going to switch it mid-season. There's just so much work to do. SKC was 17 points, and they're in 13th. Dallas is in 11th with 20 points. 12th is St. Louis with 19. In 13th place is SKC with 17 points. And then in 14th place with 11 points is San Jose, who I think are pretty much a lock for the wooden spoon. Also ahead the coach list. So if you need a coaching job, one might be available, and one might even be available for the country soon. So, all right. I do want to check. I do want to check X real quick, because there have been times, and I will say there have been times where Jordan and I have been recording, and of course, breaking news happens, and we're not up to date on it. So, yes, we're getting ready to jump into, and that's pretty much the MLS news. I did want to talk a lot about U.S. men's national team, just because I haven't gotten the reaction video, and I kind of want to see if anybody is in the live stream that wants to talk U.S. men's national team. Get ready to fire those comments in, and we'll post them up and talk about them, because I think this is where everybody is wanting to kind of focus the attention today on this show. I don't know how much recording we'll be doing together, or what that's going to look like because of Jordan's kiddo. So again, if you're just joining, Jordan did welcome his son into the world. So congratulations, Jordan. Miss you. And this is a lot harder than I think a lot of people think, is hosting these, especially when you're just talking by yourself. So hopefully there's a lot of comments. So if you got comments, start dropping them in, and we can talk a little bit about them, because we're going to talk about it. U.S. men's national team. I don't see anything as far as breaking news for Gregg Berhalter. So I did see that we've got they had come out with a statement, which is odd. The sporting director, Matt Crocker, last night, I believe it was, came out with a statement that said our tournament performance fell short of our expectations. We must do better. We will be conducting a comprehensive review of our performance in Copa America and how best to improve the team and results as we look forward to the 2026 World Cup. Well, first of all, I wanted to talk a little bit about this statement. This came last night, and I'm sitting there in bed, right, reading this, and hold on one sec. It's hard to talk by yourself and for an hour, but I'm sitting there reading this, right, and a lot of thoughts came to my mind. Um, the fact that the sporting director had to come out and pretty much say that this was not a successful tournament run, that's confusing to me. Um, it's not like the fans thought that. The fans or sorry, the fans weren't gonna know that, right? We're not dumb. We know what the results should have been. We should have been on to the next round. If not on to the next round, at least, getting into or sorry, we should have at least gotten the next round, but should have also looked to advance past that next round, whether it was going to be Brazil or Colombia. These are the kind of games that the U.S. men's national team have really struggled with, um, beating these top teams, right? Beating teams that are around their ranking in the FIFA World Ranking. Staying competitive with teams that are above them in the world ranking. Um, we look back at last. So let's rewind a little bit and talk about the World Cup last cycle, 2022. Right, we hung in there pretty well with England. We hung in there and played well against Wales. Not the best, but enough to advance into that next group. Right, Iran played well against them. Um, but there always seems to be this lacking sense of urgency. I guess there's not really urgency with this team. I've always felt that. I've always felt that um, the U.S. men's national team lacked that spearhead. And people point to Kristen Pulisic. That's one world class player, and actually, it's the first time I think I've ever agreed with Alexi Lawless. He said that you know Christian's the only world class player. The rest of them are just guys, right? Not that bad, but they're just guys that are good players. And I agree with him. Like if you look at this team, who has stepped up to prove otherwise, right? I mean, even in club, you look around the players, and it actually seems like you know, aside from a few that a lot of them have collectively regressed with their clubs or have been sold by clubs or sit in a weird spot with clubs. Matt Turner's not playing, right? Tyler Adams has been hurt. Weston McKennie has been moving around and trying to find different positions that work for him. Um, you look at Josh Sargent, pretty successful season, right? Haji Wright, pretty darn successful season. Balogun, pretty much a ghost at Arsenal. So, like, Timothy Weah, really struggling to get playing time, really struggling to look good when he does get playing time. Makes a huge mistake, and we'll get into the games, but I don't know. It just seems like there's not there's not that secret sauce, right? There's not that guy. Christian Pulisic's a very good player, but he's like a number 2 or 3 option. Like he's in no means a number 1. At least I don't think. There might be some that argue with that, but yeah, he's the heartbeat of this team. I think he's the captain, true captain. But I don't think he's ever bought into the fact that he's that guy that's going to be a game changer. He's just not that for me. He's got moments that change games, but he's not. I look at other teams and I'm like, that guy can change a game completely. I'm flipping on its head even when he's not playing well. Whereas Christian, I don't think that's that. And Gio Reyna, I think could eventually get there. But we've always been we've said that for years now, right? And Gio struggled to find places to play, and he goes to Nottingham. It doesn't work out. Then he has this whole issue last World Cup with Claudio. So I don't know. I just I think we expected so much more, and for the sporting director to come out and say this fell short of our expectation. Like, yeah, it fell short of our expect. Of course, it did. Why? What is this conversation? Why do we have to release this statement? Like, this is ridiculous to me. Like, I just don't understand why the sporting director comes out immediately, pretty much after the match, and says, "Hey, what's going on? Like, This isn't what we wanted. This isn't what we planned on doing." Well, yes, you did, Matt, because you went and hired Gregg Berhalter again. This is exactly what I'd expect, right? And I think, we all want to be optimistic, or maybe we don't. Some of us are very pessimistic people, and I would say U.S. men's national team Twitter can be or errs on the side of things are going to go wrong, and they do. So you're always going to be right. Um, but I think with this team, it's laughable. Like it's just it's a joke. It really is. It's become a joke where this federation believes that things are going to change, yet they're not willing to change anything, right? Um, there's a lot of things that we can do to change this. There's a lot. Uh, you should have completely cleaned house when this whole Claudio thing happened. Should have got rid of all of them. It's just waiting to rear its head. And I'm surprised Claudio hadn't come out and said something today. I haven't seen on Twitter if he has, but Claudio Reyna, I'm sure, is loving, which is sad to say, but loving this. And I don't care how much it looks like he's fixed and mended bridges with Geo. I don't buy it. I think it's a bad look for US Federation. We were very optimistic. We're like, you know what? Water under the bridge. Geo's been really good. Greg and him seem to have a great relationship, right? But we shouldn't have to be watching for this, right? It sounds like England. Like we sound like England. A bunch of divas that just eh, they're out there just trying to play soccer, whereas our guys aren't like that. I don't ever feel, that they're out there trying to get their own, right? I feel like this team actually is got a good head, and I think that they've got a good core, and I think they've got good players. Um, but I just don't like the nasty drama, you know, cut in the throat and stab in the backs, and it's time. Like it is so time. That regime's done, and I don't care what the players say. Players like coaches sometimes because they're nice, right? I could you imagine Greg being a disciplinary? I don't think so, right? I don't think Greg's got the discipline side of this. So of course the players are going to like him, right? This is I've played sports long enough. I know there are coaches that I really loved that didn't know anything about the sport I was playing. It truly is unbelievable. So again, what are your thoughts about this Matt Crocker coming out and saying that we fell short, that this isn't what we wanted? Of course, it's not what we wanted, right? What do you think? And we talked about Matt Crocker a little bit too. Once he was brought in, it was like, well, you know what? What's the direction here? Like, there's no transparency, and there's never transparency in the U.S. with soccer, but there's no transparency here. We're not getting any answers. And I can tell you right now, as much as so I'll start it out right now with this. As much as I don't like Greg as the head coach, the U.S. men's national team, with all the problems off field and on field, I still unfortunately don't think the U.S. have a better option. And that sounds wild to say, and I'll get to explain this, but who are you going to replace him with? Realistically, like who the hell do you replace Gregg Berhalter with? He's the best option we had, obviously, because otherwise, why the hell did we spend 2 months to go? Yeah, yeah, him. That's the guy. That's who we want, right? I don't understand when people are like, "Well, fire him. Go get somebody." Who the hell are you gonna go get? Don't give me Jurgen Klopp. Don't give me that. That ain't happening. No way. There's no chance. If you're Jurgen Klopp and you wanted stress-free life, you aren't coming to the US for soccer. That's sure the hell not gonna happen. So who else? Who we got? Throw some names out there. Josh Wolf, no thank you. Um, no. Nope. Don't want that happening, right? People say Pep. Yeah, right. He's not leaving Manchester City until it's time to leave. And when he does leave, he's going to go coach. I'd say go coaches England. That'd be my guess. I would not be shocked if Pep decides to go coach England or one of the international squads. I don't, and he might even come to MLS. I could see that too. I could see Pep coming to MLS. He does like the US. He's always talked about the US. I don't see him coaching US men's national team though. It's just not his style of players. It's really not. But yeah. So again, Matt Crocker coming out, and another word that I want to get into: comprehensive review. What the hell were you doing last time? What was it? Just a regular review? Is that why it didn't take as long, Matt? Um, the worst part is that we were playing with are assistant coaches who were on his staff, and then he just stepped right back in. It it like what's going on over there? Like, come on. That can't be this can't be good, right? So Matt Crocker to come out and say this, the comprehensive review, you've done your comprehensive review. Your review is that we can't find anything better than this, and the players seem to like Greg, so they're not going to move on. I really don't feel like they're going to. As much as I want them to, I don't feel like they're going to. Kristen Pulisic was asked about Greg Berhalter as well, and he says he backs Greg. He likes Greg, but it's a business. I love when they always say that it's a business. It's not. U.S. men's national team is not. I mean, it is, but it's so much more than club soccer. Um, so I wanted to dive into this part of it too, right? Before we actually get into talking about some of the game stuff. Um, I think we got a weak mentality on this club or this team. I'm going to keep calling it club, but I think there's a weakness to the mentality here. I think we've got, and I don't know if this is Greg's issue too, some, and it's not all on Greg. Like we can sit here and bash Greg all we want because it's easy and he's going to be the scapegoat eventually. He's going to get fired eventually. Everybody does. That's how sports work, where you leave because you can't do it anymore. Um, but he's gonna get canned. Like he will not be the coach past World Cup 2026. I just know that for a fact. I think they're not good. This club currently constructed, it's constructed. They'll get probably out of the group stage, and that'll be it. Like that's where I see them in 2026 right now. Um, but I think it's with Greg Berhalter, right? But I think Greg's got a one of Greg's weaknesses is I think his toughness. I really do. I think Greg's he's never had a team that really scored well in MLS. He's never had a team that has been a superb defense. He's always just been kind of a run of the mill coach. He's had some success, right, in MLS, but he's not really proven it at any other stage that he could have success. I'm not sure he can coach these kind of players. I really don't. I think the talent levels are too high for him. I don't think he knows what to do with it, and I don't think he knows how to develop it. Um, but I think that the players are also to blame. I don't. We don't have. I mean, I'm thinking up and down the list of players, and I think that I want to say the toughest person is probably Tim Ream, right? I think a lot of people would agree with me on that. I think Tim Ream is the most mentally tough. He's the kind of guy that he's not going to completely change games, but he's going to keep you in them. Um, I think Chris Richards could get there. Chris Richards is really good. Um, he's got moments, but he's young. He's figuring out. He's playing really well with Crystal. Um, so I really do think the center back position, and I know Tim Ream's older, but Tim Ream, hell, he'll play until his legs fall off at this point. Um, I hope he does at least because we're in trouble if he doesn't. But Chris Richards, I'd say Tim Ream, Tyler Adams, Christian Pulisic, Josh Sargent, and Haji. I mean, those are your guys that I think have that they just want to win kind of mentality. They're just going to do it any way that they can. But then I really start to question some of the other guys. I really do. Um, I never had as many questions about Timothy Weah than I did this time around, and he's just not been good. Yeah, I don't know what you do. Um, the fact that Greg even flirted with playing Haji right on the wing is like, okay, so they obviously don't have an answer there. They don't have an answer at the number 9. They don't have an answer to put anybody next to Christian. They don't have anybody in the midfield that's really creating as much as they should. Defensively, when you don't have Serginho Dest, that kind of hurts, right? Because I think Scally plays well, but I don't know if Scally really is going to be that guy that's going to play you every match in a World Cup. Um, and people would throw out Johnny Cardoso. Like, no, I don't think his talent level's that high to play on this team. Tyler Adams is a lot better than he is. And I know people argue with me on that one, but Tyler Adams easily one of our best players. But you start to look up and down the list. I don't know where that mental toughness comes from. I just don't. And we don't have it at the striker position. So we're not going to score goals. Like, there's not many teams out there that have success without a striker in the international game. Give me a team that really does. If they do, then they have a Lionel Messi who scores, or they have a midfielder that scores or creates so easily that it doesn't matter. We don't have that. We don't have that at all. It's so frustrating. Like, it really is. You know, I was so excited about this too. I was like, oh, this is going to be a great measuring stick for the U.S. men's national team. Like, this is going to be an incredible tournament. I think we'll do well in it. We should at least get to and challenge Colombia or Brazil because I think we owed Colombia something, and I don't think Brazil is as good as they thought they were. Um, I think they've got some issues of their own too, mentally tough to be one of those things. Um, and they don't have that killer instinct of a guy besides Vinny. So I, you know, it's frustrating to me. It really is. I don't know where to go from here as far as with Greg because I just don't feel like it's going to get any better. It's definitely not under him, but like, you know, what, what does what does this team do at this point? Like I'm at a loss for words just because I just we did this last time looking at the coaching pool. It's not there. Gonna go hire Luchi Gonzalez. Like what? I don't know. I have no idea. Bruce Arena's free. You might as well see what he's doing. I have no idea. It seems like that's our options, and that's it. That's all we're gonna get. I no idea. Tab Ramos, what's he doing? It's exciting hires, I know. Trust me. Watched enough of them in the MLS. It's not exciting, but you're going to get an MLS caliber coach. Is essentially what it looks like, right? You'd have to get real creative to get one of the European coaches over here. I'd give if I'm U.S. men's national team, I'd give Ronnie Dyla a call. Former NYCFC coach. I think he's over in Netherlands somewhere or the Dutch league. But he was always somebody that was like, well, give Jim Curtin a call. The unions suck. See what he's doing. See if he's bored. Oh, speaking of Jesse Marsh, that guy. Remember him? Yeah, Canada's on to the next round. That's exciting for us all, isn't it? Unbelievable. This federation, seriously, I worry about it. And let's talk about it, right? Okay, 2026. You're looking at this squad, right? What do we expect? Like, Copa was in the United States. Like, we were in cities that are well known for their support of soccer, but just not the US men's national team. So that brings the question of, okay, we're gonna play in LA, right? We all know that. We're gonna play in LA. Um, if you put us in it with any of the South American teams or any of the Asian teams, LA is a prime spot for a lot of people from those areas. So what do? Hell, put us in the Midwest, right? Well, okay, Copa. Let's go to Sporting Kansas. Or sorry, let's go to Arrowhead in Kansas City. That didn't go well. It just so not only is location going to be an issue, and home field advantage is pretty much a non-point, a non-factor at this moment, but now look at the talent of this team. I don't see much change. Serginho Dest will be back, right? Jedi will be at left back. Chris Richards at center back. I don't know if Tim Ream is still playing and helpful at that point. So then who do you look to? It's going to be one of your MLS castaways or Mark McKenzie, right? People say Miles Robinson. That didn't go well. Um, you know, defensive mid, Tyler Adams. Midfield, you got Musa, Weston McKennie, Jay Orena. Forwards, you got Pulisic, Balagoon, Weah, Sargent, Haji Wright, Pepe. And right now, I mean, I know there's a lot of young ones, but Pepe didn't do it for me. I thought he looked better than Balagoon, though. Balagoon got hurt. That's an issue. If he's got lower legs or lower limb problems, that's going to be an issue. I like Josie Altidore 2.0. So we don't have that talent yet. It's not surfaced. And to expect it to surface in the next year, I don't think it happens. So you're stuck with this team. You are. There's nothing else that's changing. Maybe Ethan Horvath and goal. Hell if I know, right? If Matt Turner got hurt or Matt didn't play. But I think we're at a point right now, and you can leave comments if you disagree, but we're at a point right now. We're like a year away where we're really going to start to see some of the camps that some of these we're prepping for the World Cup. Remember, the World Cup goes back to summer in 2026. So this is the roster, folks. This is it. Hope you're excited. And it's going to be under Gregg Berhalter. I'm convinced. Maybe something. Maybe there's nothing more patriotic than firing Gregg Berhalter on July 4th. I don't know, but I would have thought the news would have come today if that was even being considered. It would have been announced today. I think. I really do. Now, if we're talking next week and Gregg Berhalter's still the coach, he'll be the coach, or this will be a disaster. This will be a train wreck because I think right now lined up, the only things that we really have Olympics, which Greg won't be there for that. I want to say it's Gold Cup, right? Next year. That we're looking forward to. So you got internationals friendlies sprinkled in that you're going to get to see Greg try to stay above the surface. And the federation might be looking for coaches right now as we speak, but I highly doubt it. And the longer this goes on without witty words where Greg is going, he's still going to be the U.S. men's national team coach come 2026. And that's going to be frustrating for a lot of people. And we are not the only ones that have voiced that on Twitter, that we agreed that he needed to go. Jordan and I both agree he needs to go. This is it. Jordan and I were very much in the one cycle per. Even when you have success, I mean, unless you win the World Cup, I would say that it's probably a failure, your tenure. Unless you take a team that really just was not expected to do anything and you move quickly into a round that you're not supposed to be in or expected to be in, then I would say a lot of it's just failure. And they're like, well, you can't keep moving on every 4 years. That'd be a nut. Well, it's why a lot of teams struggle. It's why a lot of teams struggle. Look at England. Southgate's been there a couple cycles now. Look how that's played out. We have the same issue here. U.S. men's national team, the same kind of problems. I'm interested. Anybody got any comments? I hadn't seen any come in. I don't know if my comment thing. I was expecting quite a bit of. Should I say Greg in? Maybe that'll get some people stirring. Greg in. I like Greg. Greg's a good look for the U.S. men's national team. Bounce passes, sneakers, and all. Love it. One of my favorites. But yeah, everybody agree? This team can't beat good teams? I don't think. We can't score. That's a big issue. And that's never been Greg's big thing, is scoring goals. So we're not going to be able to score goals. So it's all gonna be on our defense. And can we turn the ball? Can we have the other team turn the ball over in our third? I don't think so. I just don't think we've got the guys up front to do it either. Like when was the last time you saw the U.S. men's national team cause so much pressure that they caused the other team to have a mistake? You don't see it often. So to play like that, and then also think that we're going to play possession ball against some of these teams is a joke. I remember the old days, right? Jordan and I talked about this. Old days where Landon Donovan, right? Patrick Dempsey. That's the wrong guy. Um, Clint Dempsey. I was thinking, I just saw, sorry, I was Grey's Anatomy. I saw a TikTok the other day and I get Patrick Dempsey confused. Clint Dempsey, Landon Donovan, right? Timmy, that team, Jermaine Jones. Like, that was a team that was fun because they basically sat back, waited, and then smashed you in the face on the counter. Michael Bradley. Dude, those guys were mean as hell. They were like really mean. This team does not have that. A bunch of nice guys. I do like them. I like our guys. But I think they're soft. Is there anything wrong in saying that? They're soft. I'm soft. Like if I was if I was out there, I wouldn't even get near them. But I don't think this team has the grit. I really don't. And that could be a product of management. That can be a product of coaching. But until they prove me otherwise, I just they don't show up for big games. They always play down to teams that aren't on their level. That's a sign of true weakness from a manager position. So what do? You fire the coach. He's the first to go. You have time right now if you had done your research. That's the other thing too is the US Federation had to have been prepared for this. It had to have been. Because as much as we wanted to be optimistic about this, we would be stupid or we'd be lying to tell you that we weren't thinking this was going to be one of the results that could happen in a group like we got, right? Bolivia, not great, but Panama had always given us issues. They always do, right? They're not a great team, but they always give us headaches. And then you got Uruguay, which I think we pretty much knew if we were going to drop all three there, we can't score with Uruguay. So yeah, getting into the game, right? Panama game, unbelievable. Like we go down a man quickly, right? Timothy Weah, 18th minute. For did anybody see what he said it was, or did he ever say what had happened? Because he just punches the guy. Like straight up just punches somebody for no reason. And then was like, "Whoa, what? You're throwing me out. Why? What'd I do?" So then he has to miss the next game as well. And while Way hasn't been one of our best, he's somebody you have to rely on and has been relied on. But 18th minute, he's gone. Balagoon scores in the 22nd minute. It's like, all right, maybe we can do this. Let's just hunker down. Never mind. 26th minute, equalizer. And then once that equalizer went in, it felt over for me. I don't know if anybody else felt that way, but it felt over. Like the momentum felt like it had shifted completely and it was going to go to Panama. I had seen it 100 times with this team. And that's the other thing too that they're just not. That's where the toughness I question. When this team's down, they don't fight back. They don't claw. They do claw when they're drawing a team and are on the verge and they need a goal to get a win. They somehow figured it out in Gold Cup, but not this time. Nope. But you cannot lose your head in a tournament like this. And then if you do this in the World Cup, you just got your team knocked out of the World Cup. I mean, this was Copa America. That's a huge tournament, but you do something stupid like this, you cost your team. And it cost them. I mean, that from then on it looked completely in control for Panama. I mean, we went down to like 20 some percent possession, 26. And then moving on to this Uruguay game, there were moments where it felt okay, but it really just felt like we were playing for a draw and hoping that somehow Bolivia did something against Panama, which they didn't. They did it first, but then Bolivia ends up beating them. So now they move on, and Brazil, Colombia, likely to move on. But I would have loved to have a run at either of those two. Because I for some reason I thought, well, we looked good against we looked good against Brazil, but I don't think Brazil's very good. Like, you look at the so I'm looking at the world ranking, right? Brazil's currently 4th. Argentina is above them, France and Belgium. They're not beating those 3 teams. Not right now. Nope. Nope. England, the US could beat England. England's just not. They've got a bunch of guys that just don't work together, and maybe that's our issue too. I don't know. Maybe, but we just don't have guys that can play the same system together. Portugal, I think they could probably beat Brazil. Netherlands could beat Brazil. Spain could beat Brazil. Like Brazil looked really bad, and they've not looked great in Copa. But they're missing like that talent that Neymar was. They don't have the guys to carry them like they once did. Croatia, they'd be tough. Italy, it depends on which Italy shows up that day. They seem to be the most flip floppy team I've ever seen in my life. Hell, the US might want to play them. That sounds fun. Maybe a group with them in the US. That'd be a group we could win because sometimes Italy plays like a 90th ranked team and sometimes they play like world beaters. But I don't know. This was a disaster. This was an absolute disaster. A crapshoot. Gregg Berhalter, still a U.S. men's national team coach as of July 2nd at 7:03. He'll probably be gone at 7:10. 7:10. That doesn't even make sense. 7:10. But yeah, what are your comments? Anybody? Anybody out there? Any Greg? Anybody love Greg? Anybody like, nah, think we're good. We're set. This is it. This is how we roll into 2026. Anybody have any expectations in 2026? Or expectations are completely out the window now? I know a lot of people say, well, it depends on who we play. I don't think it does. I really don't. They're going to have to beat 2 teams in their group. That's my opinion. Just really bad. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't know how much else I can say as far as how bad this is. Um, this is like a momentum killer for the years coming. I don't know how it gets better. Again, I don't think it does. I really don't. But yeah, I just I can't. This is so frustrating. It's one of my favorite teams to watch, if not my favorite team to watch. Which I mean, you know, players will continue to back him. The federation seem to continue to want to back him. They're Gregg Berhalter in. We are all Gregg Berhalter out because nobody commented when I say anybody like Greg. So I think that's a unanimous. There's 30 some odd people in here right now. Sounds like a whole lot of no to us. So if the 36 of us are deciding, 35 of us are deciding, Greg would be gone. Looking forward, let's see, U.S. men's national team matches that are coming up. Not like you'd want to watch this much more. They do have the Olympics. It's kind of hard to get excited for the Olympics, isn't it? With the way that we've played. Oh, wonderful. International friendly U.S. men's national team. Next one is 66 days against the Jesse Martians of Canada. So, yeah, we got Canada, New Zealand, and then Panama in October. So September 7th against Canada in Kansas City. Oh boy, we get to go back. That's fun. U.S. men's national team against New Zealand in an international friendly in Cincinnati, Ohio. And then the U.S. men's national team against Panama on October 12th. Tickets still available for all those if you guys want to go see them. Jordan and I talked about this, though. I don't know how much international competition they're going to get from Europe. So it sounds like we're kind of stuck with some of the Asian clubs, or sorry, Asian teams, some of the CONCACAF teams, maybe one or two of the South American teams. We could have played more South American teams if we'd have, kind of like stayed in this tournament. I'm saucy today. Anybody texted? Anybody? Jordan texted me. Hi, Jordan. But I don't know, man. I feel pretty defeated. I do. I haven't felt this. I mean, all my teams suck right now. I can get into other sports if you really want. I'm an Orlando City fan. That's not been going well. Cubs fan. That's awful. They're in last. U.S. men's national team bounced. All we got left is the Olympics. That's all I got this summer for sports. Like, maybe somebody out of that will get really exciting for us, right? There's a couple names on there we can get excited about. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for this episode. Really appreciate everybody jumping in and listening. I'm sure it was more of a soapbox at this point, but we always enjoy when people are in here watching and commenting. Love seeing people's comments come through. Love to see interactions. Love to see some of your guys' thoughts on this. We're gonna post this up as a regular video. So if you're watching it back or listening it back, MLS continues to churn on. So we're gonna head into match day 24 coming up. And I'll kind of read through what that looks like. So match day 24 starts actually tomorrow, July 3rd. That's Columbus versus Nashville at 6:30 at lower.com. 7:30 games, Charlotte against Miami, Bank of America Stadium. DC versus Cincinnati at Audi Field. New York City and Montreal at Citi Field. Playing at a different baseball stadium. That's exciting. Toronto and Orlando at BMO Field. 7:45 because they had to throw that one in there for fun. New England will host Atlanta United. The Atlanta United that's playing with like 12-year-olds right now because everybody's gone. Chicago against Philadelphia at Soldier Field. Minnesota and Vancouver at Allianz Field. St. Louis and San Jose. Sorry, these are all 8:30 games. St. Louis at City Park will host San Jose. And then Salt Lake. RSL will host Houston at 9:30. And then July 4th, we got some July 4th fireworks. We've got Dallas hosting Portland at 8:30. Colorado hosting Kansas City at Dick's Sporting Goods. And then LA Galaxy and LAFC will head to the Rose Bowl. I think that was canceled last year, right? Did they ever go back and make that up? That's going to be exciting. They're top of the West. So that's my game of the week, top of the West. LA Galaxy, LAFC, headed to the Rose Bowl on July 4th, 10:30. I'll be in Chicago, but I might need to watch that game somewhere. That'll be a great game. And then Saturday, I guess that would be match day 24. Cincinnati will host Miami. Columbus. These are 7:30 games. Columbus will host Toronto. Montreal will host Vancouver. Orlando City will host DC United. Philadelphia will host rivals New York Red Bull. And then at 8:30, Austin will host NYCFC. At 9:30, Salt Lake will host Atlanta United. And then at 10:30, Seattle will host New England. Sunday, July 7th. Why in the world is a MLS Next Pro team on here? Anyway, Houston at 8:30 will host LAFC. Kansas City will host Dallas at 8:30. Children's Mercy. San Jose is to be determined against Chicago. I don't think they even want to play each other. Like this will be great. Colorado at 9:30 will host St. Louis. LA Galaxy will host Minnesota at 10:30, and Portland will host Nashville at 10:30. Nashville going back to the Western Conference to play their former Western Conference foes. Game I'm looking forward to there. Cincinnati, Miami. Miami's still doing it, man. They're still winning without Messi and Suarez, so I think they might still win. TQL, if Cincinnati loses there, they might want to just give the supporter shield and the conference to. No, I'm kidding. But it would definitely become tougher for Cincinnati. Miami, we get some separation there. And we're starting to churn into the summer months. It's harder to win games in the summer months. Teams are worn out middle of the season. Oh, yeah. Speaking of, we did get one last thing before we head out of here. We got some MLS All-Star news, which I believe MLS All-Star game. I think we're playing Liga MX again, right? Is that how we doing it? Yeah, we're playing the Liga MX All-Stars. Okay. All-Star roster, here it is. Goalkeepers, Roman Berkey, Hugo Lloris, and Martin Paez. How do you say his last name? Paez. Defender, sorry. Jordi Alba from Inter Miami. Camacho from Columbus Crew. Justin Glad from RSL. Aaron Herrera, DC United. Thiago Martins, NYCFC. Steven Herrera, Columbus Crew. Luca Oriano from FC Cincinnati. Miles Robinson, FC Cincinnati. Keegan Roseberry from the Colorado Rapids. Midfielders, Luciano Acosta, FC Cincinnati. Sergio Busquets, Inter Miami. Chonier from Montreal. Evander from Portland. Ryan Gold from Vancouver. Hector Herrera, Houston Dynamo. Robin Lod from Minnesota United. Hani Mukhtar, NYCFC. Darlington Nagby, Columbus Crew. Ricky Puig from LA Galaxy. Christian Arango, Chicho, RSL. Christian Benteke, DC United. Federico Bernardeschi, Toronto FC. Denny Bouanga, LAFC. Cucho Hernandez from Columbus Crew. Lionel Messi, Inter Miami. Luis Suarez, Inter Miami. And Diego Rossi from Columbus Crew. That is the MLS All-Star roster. And that was announced in MLS All-Star game is it in July too? Why do I feel like it's the end of July, isn't it? When is it? Probably should have looked this up beforehand. Oh, there we go. July 24th. Why? I hate that we're playing on a weekday. It's so stupid. Anyway, there's nothing else going on in July. Like, I guess maybe Olympics is going on then. But yeah, MLS roster. Anybody that you think got snubbed? Anybody that you like on that MLS roster? Anybody that you wish we'd call in for the U.S. men's national team? We need some more MLS blood. That was the issue. No MLS stuff. So we didn't have the MLS After Dark stuff going on when they're all sitting at home not playing. That'll do it. Thanks for watching the Stateside Soccer Show. If you want to give us a like, subscribe over on YouTube, that would be much appreciated. Comment. What are your thoughts on Gregg Berhalter? Should he go? Should he stay or should he go? I will try not to sing. It's probably pretty bad. Go to podcast or Spotify and rate our podcast. The more that you rate it, the better off others will be because they get to listen to us rant about Gregg Berhalter. So definitely head over there. We are on YouTube, the Stateside Soccer Show at we're on Twitter as well. I think we're hold on. Let me look this up. I'm not the one that usually does this. We are Stateside Show on Twitter. You can find us on Facebook at Stateside Soccer Show. Pretty much, I think that's pretty much it. Once again, Jordan, congratulations. Landon is part of this world right now and maybe the only hope. Landon, you're our only hope for the U.S. men's national team. Wouldn't that be funny if Jordan's kid was the next Landon, not Donovan, but Landon Weekend, and he like carries us to the next World Cup in 2050? That'd be so cool. He'd be very old then. He'd be like 24. Math is hard. 26. I don't know. Yeah, 26. Okay. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And we hope to see you guys, I guess, next week when we record on Gregg Berhalter, if he's still the U.S. men's national team, and all things match day 24 and 25.